Richard Nunn is media analyst at Charles Stanley Securities, and he joins me now. Richard, thank you so much for being on the move with us. Tell me, would you be actually telling your clients to buy Facebook shares?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been a lot of short-term hype around this over the last month, but what you have to look at, it's not short-term, it's a medium-term play. And I think when you look back as in terms of a comparator with Google, when it IPO'd, it was deemed to be crazy multiples on earnings and revenues. It's not too dissimilar to Facebook now, but 3 years after it IPO'd, it was worth 10 times more. And at that point, didn't have YouTube, didn't have Android. So I think what you're buying into is a big platform with what will be 1 billion users by year end, and how they monetize that. So yes, it will be big.
But what's your main concern? We've been speaking to analysts. Some of them say the problem is that Facebook may not be as popular as it was just a year ago. We saw a couple of the big names actually dropping it as, you know, platforms to advertise their things on, and at the same time you have to really like the chief executive. He's going to be in charge, so you're basically buying into Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, you are, and listen, I think, you know, he's got management control, there's no doubt about it, but he's a visionary. And if you think, you know, what he's done in 8 years on that business, we're just starting now. So I think if you don't buy into him, don't buy the stock. But I think, you know, you have to buy where this stock is going and how they're going to monetize that.
But how can Facebook grow from here? Does it have to diversify? Does it have to acquire companies to become bigger? For, you know, China is a great unknown. Are they speaking to anyone there?
My understanding is those conversations are being had, but it's a dichotomy, right? Because you've got China, which is anti-freedom of speech, and Facebook, which is about freedom of speech. Yeah?
Connecting, of course.
So I don't think in the short term that will happen, but I think what you have to look at is Asia. They are cracking the Indian market, which has got 1 billion people, right? Indonesia, cracking it, 256 million people. China, no, not in the short term, but I think the rest of Asia, yes.
And in terms, is this the only way to grow? You know, I'm a Facebook user, I kind of believe the hype, but at the end of the day, how is this business going to look like in 5 to 6 years? Will it have to be completely changed, radically different to what we're seeing now?
No, I think what you have to think about is Facebook is like an Intel. It's an Intel inside a Visa, MasterCard. It's a platform, right? And there's going to be a lot of things that are happening that are going to drop into that platform. And that's how they'll monetize. Yes, mobile is big. And I think that surprised Facebook about the acceleration of how consumers are using mobile. And so
they were a little bit behind the curve in mobile usage.
Yes, but let's not forget, as are a lot of people, because I think that acceleration is just huge. So yes, I think a lot of their initial M&A activity will be focused on that, but there's a huge amount of organic stuff that that Facebook can do to monetize their user base. And it's about engagement, it's not about advertising.
At $38, do you find it expensive, or do you find it still cheap? Or would you say, yes, it's expensive, but actually you can't afford not to miss it? As you say, you know, what is it going to be worth 10 years down the line? Well,
listen, it was only last week we were saying was $34 or $28 expensive, right? It's now 38. It will bump 10-20% today because there's got a huge retail appetite. But I think, you know, I'm not saying it will do a Google and it'll be 10 times what it will be in 3 years' time. But I think, you know, it will hit $100 over the next 3 to 5 years, purely because of what it's able to do with brands and with advertisers.
And you would buy it now? You wouldn't wait a couple of months, because this is something else that we've been speaking to investors that say, look, I'm interested, but I just want to see how the summer pans out.
Yeah, I think yeah, the next couple of weeks is going to be, it's going to rise, and I think it may come back over the coming weeks because of, you know, there's been a lot of hype. But I think, you know, if you can get some stock now, roll with it. But this is a 3-year play, it's not a 2-month play.
All right, Richard, thank you so much. Richard Nunn there, media analyst at Charles Stanley Securities.